What's up, Joe?
What's going on, brother Michon?
Hey, man, your neighborhood agitator is here, bro.
Ah, that's a perfect name. You might have to change your name to Uncle Michon, the neighborhood agitator.
Hey, man, the news and the stuff that I got that's happening with me has caused me to realize that I am the neighborhood agitator, Uncle Michon. Somebody got to do it, right?
There you go. Somebody got to do it. It might as well be you.
Might as well be me. Might as well be.
Yeah.
Have you heard from Richard?
Yeah, Richard will be on, and we're live right now. You ready to go
All
ahead and
right.
start the show?
Hey, let's get this thing kicking, man.
That's what's up. That's what, folks. It is the Truth Be Told show right here with yours truly, Mr. Just Ask Joe, and y'all know who it is, your neighborhood agitator, Uncle Michon.
In the house.
Let's go. Let's get it.
All right, cue the music.
Cueing music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Michon.
Welcome.
All right.
Up.
All right, we got Peter Hayes with us just the same. Folks,
Hey.
It is Tuesday, September 27th, and I just want to let you guys know that this is the only Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 that you will ever see in your life. All right. Unless you are able to stay around after the next time the earth is destroyed and we start this matrix all over again, then guess what? This is the only Tuesday, September 27th that you will ever see. So you better make today a fantastic day. Folks, it's the Truth Be Told show. What's going on, Uncle Michon? What's going on? Better Days with Peter Hayes.
Hey, man, I've had a revelation. I'm accepting that revelation. Okay, I posted. I said, since Reverend Coleman passed, who has been the agitator in our community, stirring up stuff since he done passed? You know.
Well, you got to get some paper and stand out on the corner.
Gotta get a bullhorn. You know, Peter knows that Reverend Coleman was good at being an agitator and stirring people there. And you would think it was outdated and everything, but sometimes some of those tactics is required when you got people who don't take you serious and they don't take things seriously. Sometimes you got to resort to certain tactics that literally I thought was outdated, man. But I've come to realize that sometimes you got to move things in a different way to make things happen. What's up, Peter Hayes?
Hey, great, fantastic, beautiful morning. Nice to be in the fall season after a pretty hot summer, huh?
Yeah, well, I know all you all are very happy about the weather changing there, but I'm not. I would rather still be warm. I'm not happy how the weather done changed and everything. It was, I'm just not down for it like that. My wife is very happy about it, everything. She likes the change of weathers, but I don't like it. Yeah.
So tell me about this beloved community network. Who wants to talk about that? What is that?
Well, the beloved community network, it seems like it is a collection of multiple organizations in the community that operates from not just from a religious standpoint, from a spiritual calling to engage collaborative relationships to resolve some of the social issues that we have in our community. And it seems like Richard Whitlock, a young brother here in Louisville, Kentucky, he has a program that's a part of that beloved program and everything. He's going to be here on our show. And I'm just glad that myself and Marcus was able to participate. We brought our God's Lives Matter and History Untold to the program. And brother, I'm glad to report, man, they were pretty excited about the conversation, the butterfly we presented to them and everything with the two faces and everything. So they was very intrigued by that whole thing. So I think the beloved community and the spirit in action is actually a good thing, but bottom line is, Peter Hayes, how many programs we done seen come along and this and that and everything. As I said at just many, we can't just be having programs. We got to produce some measurable results. Okay, we got to produce measurable results in things that produces something to resolve the issues. Just to sit around and talk about it and have a feel good is, and we got to get beyond that. What you say to that, Peter?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's something, even Peter, when you talk about that, Peter, that's something that is necessary even when we talk about our current government administration, right?
Oh yeah. We talked about having, a scorecard on Joe Biden. He's doing pretty rough. The latest poll came out that 56% of Democrats do not want him to run again in 2024. So that was quite interesting. And
pretty bad when your own party don't want you to run, bro, isn't it?
Yeah. And Jen Psaki, who used to be his media spokesman, she kind of stirred things up over the weekend because she said if the election coming up in November, if it's focused on Biden, the Democrats will lose. If they can focus it on, they're trying to pinpoint some extremist Republicans, that's their strategy, kind of, demonizing certain people. But if the election is on Biden, the Democrats will lose. And she said they know it. So that was quite interesting that she would say that, of all people.
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting too. I saw that clip as well. And it's kind of like, darn, didn't you used to roll with him? Didn't you used to be his press? That was kind of interesting.
I'm just wondering when is hot sauce lady in the bag, hot sauce in the bag lady, Kamala. When is Kamala gonna become the next and first female president of the United States of America Corporation?
Man, do we really want that to happen?
We may not want it to happen. It's just we know that right now, one of the reasons why the Democrats are so scared of Biden, again is in for the next election, is because Biden is a ghost. He's literally a ghoul. He's a ghoul, goblin, ghost, and no one wants a ghost running in the government office. He's almost see-through. He's such a ghoulish goblin ghost.
But worse than that, come on, man. If you want to clown, worse than that, if he were to disappear, oh my God, what are we gonna get? We gonna get fake hot sauce. Okay.
But that's what we thought was gonna happen in the beginning anyway, because Biden is not mentally capable. He never was, and he isn't now. And he's definitely worse off now than before, but he's not mentally capable of being POTUS. He's not. The guy is literally a shell of a person, and I'm convinced. Hey, I don't care. I'll say what I want to say, but I'm absolutely convinced that you know, the CIA and their whole mask program. You know, they got with Hollywood some time ago, and they worked out the kinks and perfected those masks that Hollywood was using, and they perfected it so much so to where now you can, you know, put on a mask on a fake person or on another person and go around. So I'm convinced that this man is sicker than the public even really knows. And it may be a situation where Kamala becomes an interim president or something of that nature at some point, because you know they've been putting black women on the forefront more so than black men anyway lately, trying to continue to disrupt the family structure in the melanated community.
Yeah, what it is to be masculine. They have no problem in coming specifically in our community and trying to derail that. That's a very true statement. Okay, let's let's talk about what's going on. You know, let's talk about what's going on abroad. Okay, is Putin going to win that war over there? Is he going to make it happen, Peter? I mean, what's going on over there, man? I mean.
Well, I mean, they have such a superior military than Ukraine. I think it's going to drag on, unfortunately. I mean, his goal is to destroy the country, and he's pretty much doing that. He just called up 300,000 reservists, you know, so you know, I don't think he's going to quit anytime soon. I don't think he's,
hey, you know what? For the layman, Peter, dictate why there's a war going on in Ukraine with Putin.
Yeah,
go back and do a recap and tell us what happened. Why are we here?
Well, it's hard to say because, you know, NATO, which is the North American Treaty Organization, you know, it goes back to the Cold War, which was the Soviet Union against US and the West. And when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989 and 87, which I was over in Russia at that time, believe it or not, in 1989, you know, all those countries that were under the boots of the Soviet Union, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Estonia, Ukraine, they got their freedom, and Soviet Union, which was supposedly this world power, the reality is the Soviets were spending 40% of their budget on defense, but their economy was atrocious. You know, the Russians don't. Would you buy a Russian car? Would you buy a Russian computer? Hell no.
Right.
You know, their economy was atrocious. So it was really almost like a Wizard of Oz situation when they pulled off. And so when technology started booming, you know what really brought them down was one main thing was the miniaturization of technology, chips and everything. They could not compete with the West, so they collapsed and they lost their whole empire. Now, Putin, who was a KGB colonel, he lamented 25 years ago that was the worst thing in history, that the collapse of the Soviet Union, that Russia gave up their countries. So he's been talking about getting back the Russian glory, so to speak. So he had the opportunity, and it's interesting, under Obama, a Democrat, he took Crimea, and we didn't say a peep, basically.
Right.
And I think that was a sign to him that hey. And then when Biden, another weak Democrat,
that was a sign. That was a sign that America don't want no smoke. You know, they can get away with stuff more so under that Democratic regime.
Right.
You know, more so. But you know, it's amazing that you talk about, you know, Putin wanting to bring back the glory. You know, in America we're a little more vain. And I feel like we have a certain level of respect. But he wants to bring back glory. You know, he should start with changing his name. Putin is just a terrible name for anybody that's supposed to be in charge of something. You know, it dictates, you know, every time I think of Putin, I mean, I can't think of Putin without thinking of somebody Putin. I mean, I'm just saying that's such a degradation in a name
Imagine he
there.
used to get picked on. Yeah, you know he used to
Man,
get
as
picked
a
on.
kid, he had to have gotten picked on. It's just a lie. It's just lie. Yeah, you're Putin. You know what I mean? I mean, he had to get picked on as a child,
Yeah.
and this is the repercussions of it. We got this mean guy who's pissed off about his last name. He probably killed his parents as well. But I'm just saying, man, you know, he should start there when it comes to bringing back glory to the country.
That is too funny. That's too funny.
But bringing it up to speed, so NATO, which is the alliance against the Soviets, you know, those Eastern European countries that left Russia, a bunch of them joined NATO because they want to be aligned with the West. Ukraine was talking about joining NATO, and they never actually applied, and NATO never, you know, accepted them. But Putin used that as a kind of excuse, say, hey, you know, they're going to be on our border. But the reality is Europe is not going to attack Russia because, first of all, Europe gets most of its oil and gas from Russia. So what are they going to do, invade Russia? Anyway, but he was, you know, the Russian nationalism is very strong. So he kind of played that up as an excuse that, you know, the Ukraine and the West, you know, is going to invade Russia and we don't want them on our border. And anyway, that's one of the main reasons. And I don't know how stable he is because that doesn't make a lot of sense. And
No.
it's kind of backfiring on them because they thought they were going to roll in a couple weeks, take over Ukraine.
Did you hear, Peter, that Ukraine is actually taking back some spots that they had actually had lost, and now they have actually taken back a few of those spots back. So Putin is losing his control, and he losing a certain amount of credibility as well. So I think
It's almost as if Putin is losing his gas.
Yeah. So I you know, it's just
now,
a matter of time.
Is the experts are saying in the winter, in a couple months or two, he's going to shut off the gas and oil to Europe. And you talk about freaking out when people are freezing to death in Europe. And that was one thing Trump brought up. We were the number one exporter of gas and oil under his administration, and it started under Obama as well. So Obama and Trump got us to the point where we were exporting. We could have supplied Europe, who's our ally, but they were buying gas and oil from Russia. And now he's threatening if they really get to the point, he's going to shut off the pipeline. And what are they going to do?
Wow.
In the middle of winter, what are they going to do when you don't have heat? And the Italians and Germans and Swedish starts freezing to death. And so he's got a lot of leverage over us. And the reason why Biden played into that, because his administration has had a war on fossil fuel, and they shut off. The first thing he did in office was cancel the Keystone Pipeline.
I know.
He reduced drilling in America. So we went from being the number one exporter to now begging Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, who's our enemy, Iran, who's our enemy. And we were, up until recently, we were still buying oil and gas from Russia under Biden. So
Peter, who does that? Who actually does that? And you supposed to be concerned about your own self-preservation. Who actually will do something like that to take your own people out, your own country out of being a leader? You cut them off at the knees. You just, you know, you stop them from being a leader and doing things. And Who does that?
A leader who's ideologically possessed and has people around him who are ideologically possessed.
Hey Joe,
Because
you got that tipping point on.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Ideologically possessed.
Yeah,
That terrible person is what we're talking about.
well, they're so caught up in, global warming, and global warming is an issue, but they want to say like it's the end of the world. It's an emergency. Yeah, it's an issue, and so they, but the Democratic Party, which I'm a member of, unfortunately or fortunately, our one of our big base is the environmental group. And
What's this Marcus saying?
He says the Keystone Pipeline did not, and I'm assuming that's provide any oil for America.
well, it was coming from Canada, but do we want to buy oil from Canada, or do we want to buy it from Venezuela and Iran? So Canada is a big oil producer along with the U.S. So is Mexico. And so if we kept the oil, the Keystone did provide a lot of jobs because the refineries are in America, specifically in Louisiana and Texas. So the Keystone Pipeline was going to take the crude oil from Canada and bring it through North Dakota and Minnesota and down through America. So, it definitely cut off a source of oil for the refineries. So that's why gas went up even before Putin invaded Ukraine. The gas, as we remember, gas prices started skyrocketing. But anyway, the Ukraine-Russia is a mess for many, many reasons. The fact that, both Ukraine and Russia are very big grain producers, so there's a shortage of grain in the world. And they're also big fertilizer producers. So worldwide fertilizer shortage, which is what farmers use worldwide to, plant crops. Fertilizer has gone up 300% from last year. So think about that for a farmer.
So are we in a era of food shortages near getting? I mean, we getting to that point where
Remember we had Martin on the show, who is a farmer, Martin Smith, and he works with local government here in Louisville, Kentucky. And he talked about it, because they're seeing it firsthand, how gas changed, pricing, how there's shortages, like you said, on fertilizer. He mentioned all of that stuff. And here, let's recap this real quick, and then I'm going to go to commercial. But Marcus Ray says at the end of the construction, there were only 67 jobs. And he says they were not being refined in America. It was going straight to tankers. And Tiandra Washington says, it was my understanding that the Keystone Pipeline was only providing temporary jobs, and that oil was not for America. She says, it's also my understanding that when Russia invaded the Ukraine and we had to impose sanctions on Russia, that affected the cost of gas worldwide.
She making some very good points. That it is a lot of truth to that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I tell you what, we'll go to commercial, and then when we come back, we want to get a review from hopefully Uncle Meshorn about last week's what was that called? Spirit in Action.
Spirit in Action. Yes. Sir.
All right, folks. We'll be right back. Again, it is the Truth Be Told show.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
All right, cue the music.
Cue music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Mishorn.
All right, folks, we're back right here, the Truth Be Told show. It's yours truly, Mr. Just Ask Joe. You have Uncle Mishorn, the neighborhood agitator, as well as Better Days with Peter Hayes right here, Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. And I want to segue a bit into this Spirit in Action program that you and was it you and Marcus out there?
Yeah, Marcus and I was both. Yeah, Marcus and I was both there at the meeting. The first thing I want to say is that it was a very educational, very insightful, very inspiring, I got a whole audio. We had a prayer. I mean, it was very.
It was in Louisville's West End, right?
Yeah, it was in the deep, right there in the heart at the Catholic Enrichment Center, right there. I think what it is, Peter, about 30. I think it's 34th or something like that.
Oh, the CEC. That's that's right there.
You know what I'm talking about. I can't. Right. I mean, we talking about in the heart of the West End community, okay? And for the motivation behind why they came together was an idea that people who are driven by the Spirit, that wants to be interested in how to affect social issues in our community, let's have a collaborative effort between all the spiritual or religious leaders who felt they've been called by the Spirit to affect the issues and concerns that's specifically in the urban community.
How many leaders from the urban community showed up there, Mishorn?
One.
What? Hold on. One is just one that spoke, but 25 of them showed up, right? Because you got like 200 churches in the West End. But you saying one spoke, but 25 others of the pastors showed up, right?
No, sir. Just one.
Just one showed up.
Just one. And that the one that showed up happened to be one that works for the mayor's office and doing some good work. I didn't even know that he's a chaplain basically for the city and everything. And what's his name again, Peter?
Yeah, Bishop Kelsey.
Bishop Kelsey, okay. Very articulate, very good brother. I've seen him around. I really didn't know much about him and everything, and but I wish I could say
LMPD police officer as well.
Right, he used to be a police officer, exactly. I wish I could report and say that there were, 25 to 100 leaders that came out there to this meeting, but only one.
Wow. So the meeting was for all the rest of leaders to come together, yet only one came together.
And only one.
How many people look like you there versus how many people look like Peter?
So let me just put it like this, okay? It was about it was let's say it was 100 people there. Okay, I will say 10 of those people look like me. That's how you can literally see the difference in who took it serious and came out and everything, and those who didn't show.
Just to I play devil's advocate here, but you gotta most of the pastors in the West End got regular jobs. They part-time pastors, you know what I mean? So it was on a Tuesday during the day. They some of them had to go and drive the school buses. Some of them had to go and put their assistant manager uniform on.
I want to congratulate Marcus. He sometimes gets on me and making these announcements on it and putting things out there. But Marcus came all the way from Elizabethtown. Okay, he's a leader as well, but he's not a spiritual leader and everything. But he came down. He thought it was important to come, and I want to thank him for coming down and everything. He took time from his work to be involved with
Marcus.
that.
Marcus is more of a Superman. I don't know how he does what he does from his regular work in the funeral business to the NAACP, president of Kentucky, to showing up to events and things of that nature. He seems to make a way, Superman, right? Without a cape. That is what he is.
Yeah. He seems to make an interest and make a way and make himself involved in everything. But I will say probably the most important thing that came out of the meeting is that, fellas, y'all should be proud of the History Untold. We introduced History Untold to over 107 people that were there. And I'm also proud to say is that when it was time to do break off, my table to present was full. Everybody was just excited about wanting to learn more. I think it had to do with I did kind of entice them, Joe. I said they said only have 15 seconds to give a spiel of why should people come to your table. And I said, well, there is a black man on here and he's speaking back to America. And basically, he's speaking his truth, never to be concerned about being lynched again.
So you guilt tripped him. You guilt tripped him. You told him, hey, I've only got 15 minutes to speak. And y'all have had 15 seconds to speak. And y'all have had 400 years.
15 seconds just to tell them. Well, just to entice them to come over. That's all. It was 15 seconds just to entice them.
15 seconds versus y'all's 400 years. You should be ashamed of yourself.
But it seemed to work. It actually seemed to work because the Peter, I'm telling you, the folks who were sitting in the chairs and was excited, wanting to hear what it was all about. It was more folks look like you, bro. And I was, I was encouraged. I mean, at least we had a full table and everything. But Peter, they didn't know anything. This is the thing I want to ask you, Peter. How is it that they didn't know anything about Jamestown, Virginia? I mean, every single one of them said they did not know. They had not told them. What's your take on that, Peter? Just what is your take? Why?
Give us your. Tell us about your cousins.
Well, I don't think it's taught in school very much. I mean, they'll talk a little bit about the history of slavery, the Civil War, blah blah blah, but they don't go deeply into the history. Shucks, people can't do. If you watch any of the YouTube videos when they interview these young people, they don't even know who our first president was. They don't. The one lady asked, well, when was America formed? And she was like, in the 1900s. Yeah. So, the level of, people, because of the TikTok and everything, it's very disturbing. Social media is destroying our country and world because people just,
let's just speak to the real reason why those people didn't know, because it didn't affect them. That's why. That's the reality of it, because when something doesn't affect you, then you typically don't worry about it. Like, you know, I could be last to understanding the opioid crisis, you know, because it doesn't affect me, you know, but at the same time, I'm very informed on it. Why? Because it is the polar image of mirrored image of the crack epidemic. And we, the melanated community, look and say, damn, look at how they treating them with their epidemic versus an epidemic they started among us. So, you know, we're informed in that to that, you know, position or to that understanding. But at the same time, when it comes to that, I know some European people, even when the whole Breonna Taylor thing was going on in 2020, 2021. I mean, I talked to some, you know, people even in my office, and they would say, you know, dude, like, what's really going on? Like, what's everybody mad at? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm seriously, this is things that was said to me, you know, me as the open, outspoken, you know, melanated man I am, having no qualms about speaking to Europeans, you know, about stuff, because I understand the certain level of ignorance that's there.
Right.
Right. And it's purposeful ignorance, because here, that person that said that to me is someone that makes $500,000 a year.
Right.
That's focused on creating that income for themselves and their family. So they don't have time to worry about that.
And I think you're right. That's a part of human nature. We really only care about stuff that impacts us and maybe our family, you know, the reality, maybe our neighborhood. You know, if you're really enlightened, you care about your state or country or the world. But most people are very local.
So a person could be walking around duck pooping all over the sidewalk, not even realizing, you know, how many people are stepping in it and it, how, you know, the problems that it's causing, because, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's somewhat human nature. I mean,
So
here's
to-
something I thought the other day, and let's do an experiment with people. How much of the day, if you could consciously think in your mind, you were thinking about you versus others? Have you ever thought about that?
say that again.
How much of a day, a 24-hour day, or let's say you sleep 8 hours out of a 16-hour day, in your mind, is your mind thinking about you and your what you're doing versus others, even your spouse or family?
I would say majority of the time you're thinking about what's best for you. Okay.
90% are what you're dealing with. So the idea that people are going to say, oh, wow, let me think about what's happening in Ghana or Thailand. You know?
Yeah, no, you're right.
And you know, Peter, that's actually,
or in the West. I don't live in, you know, West Louisville. You know, I'm in Hurstbourne. Like I said, I'm insurance, taking care of my family. I got kids at school, and I'm supposed to think about someone.
And I bet you that's something that you know, community activists like a Richard Whitlock, he could probably talk about that experience of how sometimes it seems to be quite difficult to have a passion to help people outside of yourself, yet run into so many people that are only concerned about what they got going on versus the community at large. So, you know,
Joe, before we slide on, I want to tie in something that Peter just said there. And I did an exercise to make the people there, since there was so many Europeans there. I didn't plan this, but because there was so many of them there at my table, I wanted them to clearly understand that the color construct started there. So you know what I did, Peter? I had two of them. You know, they were a little reluctant because they didn't know where I was going with it. But I made two of them stand up. I said, and I had one act as the privileged, and I had one act as the indentured. And I said, basically, this is how the color construct came about. The privilege, I told the guy, he's the male. I said, you, the privilege, had a conversation with the indentured who was also part of the slaves, the Indians, and everything, and they revoked against the privilege. I said this person survived because Nathan McDaniel and his whole people were killed. So this person survived to be able to tell the story. I said, you convinced that person there to see themselves as white. Everybody got it. I said, you didn't tell them that she was poor. You were poor white. You just said, you white like me. And you convinced them to say, I need your assistance and your help to manage that we never have this revolt that happen again. I need for you to manage the poor and everybody that is not white. Let me tell you what, that was a very good exercise for me to do, because who got it the most was them. They like, I didn't really understand. I said, that's how it all began. And, you know, and
Good
T-Man
stuff.
was there too. T-Man said to me, he came to me at the end, man, I'd love for you to go to, he said, I did not know it was just that simple and how it came up. It's as exemplary how it came about.
That's Antonio T-May Taylor that you always call T-Man. But hey, folks, again, it is the Truth Be Told show. We'll be right back. Thank you, Uncle Meshorn, for what you do when it comes to getting them to buck up.
Agitating.
Agitate. There you go. The neighborhood agitator. Folks, we'll be right back. It's the Truth Be Told show. We'll be right back with Richard Whitlock.
Thank you, Truth Be Told, for allowing God's Lives Matter to be a sponsor. Wearable products, as the purple t-shirt, is bearing witness. Every life created by God has infinite value. Visit God'sLivesMatter.com.
All right, cue the music.
Cue music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Meshorn.
All right, folks, it's the Truth Be Told show. We're back, and we want to bring our next our guest up here. This is Brother Richard Whitlock Jr., who is a community activist, among a lot of other things, focused on trying to better the community, with every ounce of his being, folks. Here he is, Brother Richard Whitlock. How you doing there, family? You can't hear? Okay.
It's your mic.
Can you hear Peter and Meshorn?
Can you hear us speaking?
He can't hear. All right. Go out and come back in.
Make sure you're not muted.
He's not muted.
Yeah, you would see it if he was muted.
Here, let's have him go out and come back in.
Right. Hey, as he's going out and gonna come back in, let me just tell you a little. I think Peter and I can speak on the brother as he come back in. Is that very proud of Richard Whitlock. and what he's accomplished and what he's achieved to get to the point to where he's at today. So to be a part of a successful program and everything, and being able to be inspired and inspiring other young people to maybe, alter their behavior and their understanding to doing things different. So, what do you say to that, Peter? We've been knowing him for quite a long time. And I got to really get to know him when it was brothers helping brothers down at the neighborhood thing that was going on at James Linton Expressions of You and everything. So I really appreciate and seeing how this brother has grown and become the person that he has today. What do you say to that, Peter? Now that he's back, what do you say to?
There we go. We're giving him his flowers while he's
giving his flowers.
While he's here today.
Give him his flowers, man.
That's what's up. That's what's up. What's going on, Brother Richard?
I'm doing all right. I heard people say it, man, and the truth is, I was just frozen for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
It's all good. It's all good.
Saying is, I didn't need to grow more. I was, you know what I'm saying? And they like, where if he grew more, he could dump. I could dump before.
So you said frozen, so you just had to thaw out.
No, I just had to wait till the storm came, and I was a young man, and I'm still relatively young. I tell people I thought I showed up to the party late, and come to find out I was early.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, go ahead, Uncle Mishon, Better Days of Peter Hayes. I know you guys have some questions for brother Richard. He's got a couple initiatives and things going on, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Oh yeah, Richard, welcome to the Truth Be Told show. Good to see you again. And Richard, like I said, Mishon said, Richard's been working in the neighborhood and trying his best. And it's great to see now you got a little bit of resources to implement some of the stuff you've been trying to. We don't have time for another show, but the reality is, unfortunately, a lot of the philanthropic nonprofit money goes to the big boys and girls, and very rarely does it trickle down to the grassroots. And it's somewhat, and that's done on purpose, because the reality is, when money is given to poor communities, it ends up in the rich communities eventually. So that's a whole nother issue. But yeah, Richard, tell us about your beloved community collaborative program. Why don't you tell us what you're trying to do with it? And love to hear how that Spirit and Action collaborative meeting went.
Well, right now I'm a violence prevention community coordinator for an organization called Interfaith Path to Peace. During the Breonna Taylor movement of 2020, I met Judd Hendricks and Interfaith Path to Peace. And they started an initiative called Beloved Community. I'm actually one of the founders, and it's anti-racism work. Just like you was talking about the structure of the nonprofit industrial complex, and how we're supposed to be helping some poor people, but the rich people end up with the money. We're trying to do something about that. We're addressing these systematic challenges that we have in our city and in our community through the Beloved Community Network.
Well, that's great. One thing we do in the Compassion Games, our initiative is Beloved Community as well. So that's pretty exciting. We'll see about collaborating and, people tell us, and it's important. Dr. King, Martin Luther King, spoke about the Beloved Community, and it's funny, people don't talk about that. So what's your view of the Beloved Community? When you say that, what do you mean by that?
What I think the Beloved Community is saying a more perfect union, but not necessarily talking about country, really talking about the individual and talking about communities. It's a more perfect union on a local level.
Yeah, that's a very good explanation. Yeah, the Beloved Community, Dr. King's vision was, obviously, and Mishon's talked about this, that it wasn't really separatist or getting back. It was like, hey, we're all human beings. We should act as a family, and I think most people would agree with that. I think the powers that be, have always separated people, because that's how they benefit. You know, if all the people woke up and said, hey, you know, we can make some change, they could do it easily. But if they can divide us by religion or race or ethnicity or economics, you know, that, as Mishron said earlier, you keep people separated.
I remember Dr. Blaine Hudson when we was first on the Mayor's Violence Reduction Work Group in 2012. He said this is a human challenge. It's going to need a human solution. And you know, he ended up passing shortly after being part of that initiative. But I understood what he said. I don't think it resonated with a lot of people. But what we have in our community is a human challenge. It's going to take human solutions.
And Peter, Richard, I am glad to hear you just said that, because so many people think it's going to take just religion, okay? Or we think that if we find the right savior and everything, and I believe that our savior is within ourselves, okay? It's within our own understanding that the power is within ourselves, and you are an example of saying that my born condition doesn't have to be my reality, okay? I could do something about it, okay? And the choice began with you. So I wanted you to say, when did you realize that that you had this in you, that you can be a different than what you realized you was born into? Because, you know, you come from some different challenges and everything. When did you get a handle on it?
September 9th, 2006. I was 24 years old. I had a spiritual experience while I was asleep. I went to sleep one person and I woke up another person. And I tell people every day I wake up, I'm trying to find out who I woke up and became. And I've been on that path ever since. That's when I put away my past life and I end up in this new life that I have. I don't know what happened to me, and I'm still trying to find it out myself. But trying to put it into words, I would say I felt like I was a king in a fool's paradise. I was successful financially, but I went the wrong route. And I felt like I could have been something else other than what I was. And the analogy I use is I say I was on my way to Los Angeles and I ended up in New York. And I ended up in New York. I was farther away from LA. So I had to, you know, I went 1,000 miles the wrong way, and then I had to go 3,000 miles across the country to get there. And that's really been not just my path, it's been my journey, and that's been my story. And I think a lot of us young brothers, especially in my generation, we went the wrong way. And then we got to travel a road that's even farther. But with that being said, you know, I really feel like even me going the wrong way has really helped me connect with other people. We're a bunch of Malcolms. We don't have a lot of Martins in my generation. We're a bunch of Malcolms. So our story is more like Malcolm than it is like Martin Luther King.
Again, and sitting here listening to you, it just makes my heart warm, because that statement that you just made there, I will admit to you, Richard, I had to grow to the maturity to receive what you just said there, because I've always thought we needed to chase the Malcolms. I thought the Martin Luther Kings. I thought I was caught thinking that we needed a savior. We needed that king. We needed that person to be. Then I realized in working with young guys like yourself and other people, even Raymond Ali, okay, the brother that's been kind. I've come to realize that we're more like Malcolm, because Malcolm actually was trying to wake us up and say some things, and he was a generation. He was so far ahead of us, and we wasn't catching it. And to hear you just articulate that is strong. I'm glad we got that recorded, because that is a powerful statement. We are more Malcolms than we are needing kings. What you say to that, Joe?
I mean, I would agree. You know, I think King, in the end of closer to the end of his life, realized that he should have been more Malcolm than anything else. You know, hence that comment he made, that infamous comment that he made about leading my people into a burning house. You know, he realized that we needed more Malcolm than we needed, you know, himself or King, or that you know, Malcolm came a little bit stronger, you know, and I think that you're absolutely right. Absolutely right there. A little more masculine, and you know, his King's indiscretions are more well known than Malcolm's as well. So I don't know if that speaks to anything or not, but in a way it kind of does when I think about it. But either way, you know, I think that, you know, the community is thankful for having a brother like a Richard Whitlock, Malcolm Whitlock in the community as well, because, you know, a lot of activism, when you look out at the community at large, is not as strong as it used to be. But that doesn't change with Richard. You know, you still hear about him pushing, and you know, I don't think his punch has softened up much at all. It may have become even more strategic than it was before. So that's what we see here with him working with the different coalitions and such like that. He's able to move the way he really wants to move to help get things done. So, you know, that's definitely a plus there.
And that leads right into something, Richard. You know, I said earlier about being an agitator. I want to know how you inspired so many. You know, none of Peter and Joe didn't see it, but to keep it 100, brother, how many groups did you inspire to come on board with you, man? I was impressed with the number of young men and women that you had actually on board. I thought you was going to have like one or two. Brother, you act like you couldn't let them sit down. You had so many of them coming up under your influence and everything. So how many different organizations you have inspired to be influenced by your activism and what you've been doing?
Well, last week at the Spirit in Action, that was the name of the event, 11 social innovators spoke, and 13 was present. And with my training, 2 of them didn't get to speak because they showed up late. But we're actually working with 18 grassroots organizations and community personalities right now, because you know, it's easy to call somebody a grassroots organization, but I also think we should always mention the community personality. Because some people are they are personalities, and we do need community personalities. Some people are radio personalities. Some people have programs, some projects. Some people have works. Some people have efforts, and actually categorizing it, organizing it, attaching it to budget, and then having each other support each other. If you got 18 grassroots organizations supporting each other, that's a movement by itself. We wouldn't even need anybody outside that movement, other than the 18 organizations that's part of the coalition. And, you know, people say, hey, you know, if I wanted to be part of your coalition, your violence prevention coalition, you know, what do y'all bring to the table? What do y'all have to offer? One thing I really want to help organizations with initially is helping them get websites, helping them with organizational paraphernalia. These are things that other organizations have, but grassroots organizations can't afford. So we're talking about a capacity building at this point, right? Definitely capacity building and really helping people with their dreams and get out their dreams and their visions and be able to operate in their vocation and help people do what God's called them to do. It's not just about y'all helping me do what God called me to do. This is about us helping us do what God called us to do.
Absolutely.
Hey, how that ties into something that we say, what is right for us? You know, that's kind of our little hashtag on this show. What is right for us? And so you just said something. So you and I definitely gonna have to get together, because I got my own. I have my own fulfillment company. I'm blessed to have my own fulfillment company through God's Lives Matter, and you and through that, Peter,
Stack list already, man. I added you last week.
Yeah. Hey, but Peter, it's only because of Peter, my private alliance's relationship with Peter, that I have found this daughter company that I have established, 5-10 years now, a relationship. But I got a good relationship with the person that is about everybody who are creative artists. you said something that I'm interested in introducing your team to, that they are so good that they create. I mean, they're very artists, very good. Peter, you hear what I'm saying? I think that we can offer that to your group and everything to help them to build on their logos, even their websites, and we have relationships with. What do you say to that, Peter, to Richard?
Yeah, I think the capacity building for those organizations is very valuable because you got a lot of talented people. I guess one thing, and Richard, we've talked about this. There's so many people. Probably the biggest, one big challenge is the lack of unity. So I like building a coalition, working together, because there's actually too many activists and nonprofits, struggling and with great programs, but they're somehow they either won't work together or don't see the need. And how many churches, right? Really small churches. We talked about this last week. If small churches would pull their resources and work together, they could do more in the community. But they're so busy just paying their rent and their utility bill with all the money, they don't have any resources to do outreach. But it's an interesting phenomenon. Everyone wants to be their own boss, I guess, and the lack of working together is a challenge. So, and you've been, I know, a strategic thinker of mapping out those neighborhoods and really working from the grassroots on the blocks and the precincts. Eventually, that's what it's going to take, because the reality is the people in power don't want to solve problems that they're making money off of. And
right.
there's a lot of money being made off of poverty and violence. And, and there's a lot of money being spent to kind of solve poverty and violence, but it's not solving it. There's a national crime wave, so it's getting worse and worse. Louisville, you probably know, last weekend we talked about there was 6 homicides in one weekend last week. So, the problems aren't getting better; they're getting worse. Yet more money and energy is being spent. So, at some point, intelligence say, "Wait, let's stop and think this out," because if what we're doing is not working, we got to have a new paradigm.
And that brings us, and real quick, that brings us to the conversation as you speak to that, Richard. Talking solutions to violence and such like that. I'm gonna be honest. When I look at last week and I drove past that shooting that happened on 264 and saw like 3 or 4 gunshot holes in the back of this truck, like right after it happened. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, dude, some of this stuff looks like there's like it's intentional. Like somebody's saying we have to go and get these and run these numbers up. That sometimes that's what it's looking like, because some of this stuff was, even on that day, it was multiple homicides that day. It just looked like somebody just ran around and just said, you know what, we got to do a homicide here, so that we can run these numbers up. But as you speak to that, Richard, solutions to violence, like, as you're working with these groups, how does that play out or correlate to solutions to violence?
Well, I've been knowing about this thing called the Cure Violence Model. I've been knowing about it for over a decade. I was introduced to it when I was on the Mayor's Violence Reduction Work Group. And people want to know, hey, Richard, why you been the way you've been over the last 10 years? Is because we could have done this 9 years ago. We could have done this 8 years ago. 7, even 6, right? 10 years later, the same number, the same amount of money that it would have cost in 2013 is how much money it's going to cost in 2023. So I've been knowing about this for over a decade, and it's finally coming to Louisville. So if people want to know why I behaved the way I have over the last 10 years, why I fought the way I fought, it's because I know we should have did this 9 years ago.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I'm real big on prevention. In 2012 and 13, we had 52 and 48 murders. Last year, we had 188 murders.
Yep.
there's been more murder in the first 3 years of the 2020s than it was in the first 8 years of the 1990s.
Yep.
That's how many murders we are dealing with right now. I think the city realized there was a change in criminal and climate in 2015 when we had 91 murders, right?
Right.
That's when it was like, hey, something's different happening. Something strange is happening. It's a new phenomenon. And I don't like blaming one thing. I don't like blaming everything on one thing. But when I heard Chief Keef in 2012, I knew that drill music was gonna do what it's turned into. I remember someone said when they heard NWA, they knew it was gonna be a different kind of black male in our community. Right. When they heard F the Police, and when I heard Sosa by Chief Keef in 2012, I knew that there'd be a different kind of young man in this community. So I could see this happening 10 years from now. And also, what I would like to add is that in 2008, during the Great Recession, they were the poorest children since the Great Depression. And those poor children grew up to be violent and gangsters, just like the children of the Great Recession. So we're dealing with something real similar that we had to deal with with a previous generation with the Great Depression. Kids that grow up in poverty, extreme poverty, are more dangerous and violent as adults than previous generations.
Hey, Richard, Richard,
real quick, he said something important there, which you correlated music to the ability to have foresight into violence in our community. So, I mean, here's the thing. I like what Ray Ali said. He said solutions to violence are strong after-school programs like the Cabbage Patch, Strong Father and Son, Big Brother programs. Those are great. But here's the thing. I'm almost feeling like a hamster wheels type situation, because that's almost like I mean, it's a Band-Aid, but like a good Band-Aid, but that's not fixing the actual problem. The problem in our community is everything is coming from different angles. There's an attack from different angles, from the music to exactly I mean, listen, the American education system, they're getting exactly what they're paying for.
Right.
We are at the bottom of the list among every other organized country when it comes to like math and science. So the American education system is getting what it paid for. It paid for poor education. That's what they're getting. So it's an attack. It's almost like the root of the problem is what we need to fix, as opposed to all of these Band-Aids. Or if you put enough Band-Aids on something, then maybe something will have time to heal. So, I'm trying to figure out where the actual answer is.
Or how about this? I've used this analogy. If you put enough Band-Aids on a man, he becomes a mummy. We got a bunch of mummies in the community listening to all sorts of I do agree the negative cultural, negative cultural music and the lifestyle of being a gangster is pretty much acceptable, right? I mean, who's really speaking out against it, saying, stealing and robbing, doing whatever you got to do is not the way.
The moral authority has been changed in our community, and I want Richard to speak before, because our time getting close. But I want to put these words here before you speak. Adult emotional social learning. What do you know about that? Adult emotional social learning. We need an incubator for everything you just said. Everything Dr. Noah Shelton said, that we needed an economic incubator. And I believe that he was right, but we need an incubator because our moral authority consciousness is all over the place. And we need to get that thing reestablished. We need to reestablish that. What do you say to that, Richard?
What I would say when it comes to addressing the violence, I would love for people to check out on their own this Cure Violence model. It's been in existence over a decade.
Say that again.
Say it again.
It's actually a model, and it's been in existence over a decade, and it's actually working. And what I tell people, it's a way that you can do something about the violence in our community till the economy is fixed. But it's a way that you can do something about the violence in our community until the economy's fixed. It's called treating violence like a contagious disease, because violence actually moves like a contagious disease, like it did the other weekend, right? The more violence, the more cases, the more shootings, the more murders. So
wow.
It moves like a contagious disease. And the guy that came up with this model, he was doing some work in Africa with Ebola. And he's seen these charts of violence in urban communities. And he used the Cure Violence model, and it was actually working on a small scale to the point where people wanted to shut it down. So I think everyone should definitely YouTube that and Google it. It's the Cure Violence.
Say it again. I didn't catch it. Say it again.
It's called the Cure Violence model.
Cure Violence model.
It's called The Interrupters. That was made by PBS. That came out in 2011 or 12. And I've been knowing about this work for over a decade. So that's why I want to really know. The city, we're finally going to have the opportunity to do it in 5 communities. It'll be Park Hill. It'll be Smoketown. It'll be Portland. It'll be Shawnee. It'll be in Russell. So those 5 neighborhoods that Cure Violence is actually coming to in 2023. And I really believe in this model. I really believe in it. And I tell people if Cure Violence don't work, then nothing will.
Hey, Richard, I got to go here, man. I remember somebody came to the Man Up group and was telling us. And now when I hear you say that you knew something, but you tried to tell us, and I'm going to say, I ain't going to say her name, but there was a local leader in our community and everything that I do remember you went to and shared your thoughts and your ideas to. And we had people come telling us that these local leaders who wanted their name out there stole things or took things from certain people and everything. Do I need to put a name on that? You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's not really necessary now.
It is not necessary. But my point is that we had young brothers like yourself.
Yeah.
That were out there trying to do a movement, and people was in leadership position. Instead of them giving you the props and lifting you up and helping you do something that you knew way back then, they done something solely for who? Themselves. Am I right or wrong?
What I say, I said it before and I say it again, from 2010 to 2020 is the decade of decadence in the Black community, and the Black community was power drive by the Black elite. And now we got to deal with that devastation.
Oh,
now here's the deal: if you're not a homosexual or transvestite in Louisville, you will not be part of the in crowd. Richard was not part of the in crowd, and part of that decadence is talking about, and people who know about it. If you're not part of their immoral group, you don't get stuff done in Louisville. Let's see what happens with our next mayor, become mayor. If you don't believe me, look into the life of our 20-year mayor in the past, and some of that same stuff is going to take place here coming up soon.
We're talking in codes.
Now, Richard, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, we're talking in codes. That's what I'm saying. We're talking.
It's okay.
We're talking in codes. We're talking in codes, but we know exactly what we're talking about. There is an attack on what it is to be. I said there is an attack on what it is to be natural versus what it is to be unnatural. Okay, and I've had people come and attack me when I say that. Listen up. I choose to practice what I consider natural versus what I considered about the things that are unnatural. And so when you say that type of stuff, Richard, you understand when you trying to be a natural brother, doing the things that you thought that was important and doing the things is the part of the reason why you came under so much attack in the beginning. But I'm glad it's something that you did that I did not publicly give you props for. And I'm gonna give you this props here. You came, and you don't even know what I did after Peter know. You came to me, but it wasn't just you. It was about 3 or 4 of the brothers that came back to us and said, man up, brothers. Man, something happened. Well, brother, I want to appreciate you knowing where you came back to your roots or came back to hang out. But, brother, I actually went out and called out that person, okay? No, little brother, I want you shaking your head, but I want you to know, I called that person out. Peter, did I not? Called them out. They came on Twitter. I had just made a general statement. I said, there is a local leader in our community that's bothering our man up men that are trying to do some good things in our community. And I'm calling you out. Well, that person, all of them came to me.
Who you talking about? Sadiqa Reynolds? I don't mind calling out names. I mean,
yes, I'm talking about Sadiqa Reynolds. She came to me straight up. Are you talking about me? And I said, oh, well, thank you for coming. Yes, I'm talking to you. I heard that you have been disturbing and interrupting with young brothers out here trying to do some good work in our community. And I heard that you blocked it. And I said, right there, if I hear again that you have interfered with any of them again, I will be the first one to bust you up and talk about you. I told her that right on Twitter, okay? And you didn't know that. You didn't know that. She had nothing. Of course, she had nothing to say to me after that and everything. But when I hear what you said that you was trying to do 10 years ago, and I know who was against you, and I know the people who stand in the gap trying to prevent you, I'm glad that you didn't give up. That's what happened with Black Wall Street. See, as good as Black Wall Street was, what happened is that the legislation, our country, put laws and things together to prevent them to be able to rebuild and do the things that they could have. I'm glad that we're not living in those times, because you could have just got frustrated. You could have just got upset. You could have just went ahead and said, forget it, and went on. I'm proud of you that you stood in there, bro. Speak to that, man.
What I really, I told people years ago, this is what God called me to do. I did not anticipate the amount of backlash for standing up for our community. I didn't really know what I was getting into politically, because I tell people all the time, I'm not a political activist. I'm a community activist. I'm not a political organizer. I'm a community organizer. I really don't care who's the mayor, who's not the mayor, but I do care about what's going to happen in my community and what's going to happen to the people that I know. And like I said, over the last decade, we've seen the decade of decadence. And I just seen, we all seen it. We all honest to say, how the hell did we get here from 2012, y'all? That's when I met you guys. I met you guys in 2010, right? I met you guys in 2010, 2011. And 10 years later, the only thing you can say is, what in the hell has happened in Louisville, right? But we was there. We are witnesses. We are survivors. We seen the bad decision making. We seen the terrible determinations. And I really think we could have, and I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna say we, because I know you guys. We could have prevented Breonna Taylor from happening. We could have prevented from there being civil unrest in the streets of Louisville, Kentucky. But the way that it was laid out, God so made it be, it had to get so bad that the whole world knows how bad it is, and what you guys and what we've been talking about what's going on in this city for over a decade. Really, the civil unrest, the pandemic, the Breonna Taylor movement was like an exclamation point for a lot of the things that has been said on this show and other shows that people have been talking about over the last decade. And part of the beloved community work is the lack of beloved community over the last 12 years. And that's what people don't, I want people to understand. We're not just doing something in the present. We're doing something that should have been done 20 years ago.
Yeah, the longer you prolong an illness in your body, we know it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can have cancer, say, well, I'm not going to go see the doctor, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's certainly not going to get any better.
Let's take a quick look at a video here as we close out. This is Cure Violence data suggests reduction in crime in focus areas of Jacksonville. I've been looking as we've been talking, and there's videos all over or videos of this Cure Violence work all over the country. And it makes me think more about what Richard says as to, you know, why has it taken so long to get something like this here that is apparently working so well everywhere else.
Stopping violence before it starts. New data was released during the city council meeting showing crime is being reduced in some of the most violent areas of the city through Cure Violence. Cure Violence, it's a crime-fighting strategy that came to Jacksonville in 2019.
Despite some setbacks, program leaders say it's working and people are getting help.
Around here spreading the word.
It's been 3 years since Cure Violence, a nationally known violence prevention program, came to Jacksonville. With every violent act comes pain, in some cases retaliation. Cure Violence has found a way to talk to people most vulnerable to violence and most likely to act violently and help them see peaceful ways to move forward.
I didn't have a role model. I was my own role model.
This is Kevon Brown. A couple of years ago, he stood near this same basketball court to say goodbye to his uncle who had been murdered. Brown lost a mentor in his uncle, and his father was away in prison. He felt alone.
Coming from the hood, we ain't got no guidance. We have zero guidance. Like, we have no male figure, or sometimes we don't have a female figure, and it's both of those in the program. Like, it's not just, they gave me what I needed.
A mentor from Cure Violence stepped up to get Brown on a path of healing and focus.
It's more than just, okay, you're my mentor, I'm your mentee. It's like a family.
This is the goal of Cure Violence, getting young men and women to see a healthy path forward in life.
Very happy with the progress of the program over the past year.
The results of creating that new path were shared in a city council meeting today. Mapping data shows from 2020 to 2021 for the Northwest Side and the East Side focus areas, violence has reduced. The city has invested $4 million into the program with 3 Cure Violence sites throughout the city. Bridges for the Cure in the Northwest area, Reintegration Solutions Jacksonville, Inc. and Noah's Ark on the east side, and Potter's House Community Empowering Center on the west side.
And the sites are collaborating so that we have a greater presence in the community.
For Brown, he wants to see other people get mentors so they too can get on the right track to a positive future.
The program actually helped me set aside my goals and actually put in the steps to actually achieve them instead of just dreaming.
Brown is now pursuing his dreams. He has finished real estate school and hopes to work in real estate or one day become a merchant seaman. Brown plans to keep improving his life and the life of his 1-year-old son so that the next generation has the mentors and guidance that they need.
And there will also be a focus on high-risk events, high-risk people that could commit crime to interrupt that pattern. Looking at the data 2020 to 2021, on the east side, there was an increase in non-fatal shootings, but there was a reduction in fatal shootings. There were 113 interventions. And Northwest Jacksonville area, the reduction there was seen in non-fatal shootings, but there was no change in the fatal shootings. And there were 262 interventions.
Over the past 6 months, we have been investigating as well as exposing the truth behind all of these plans that have been catching on fire and burning to the ground.
Sorry about that, folks.
So,
technical
Richard,
difficulty.
how long have this Cure Violence been going on? That is a powerful. How long have you known about that?
I've been knowing about it since I was on the Mayor's Violence Reduction Group in 2012.
Wow.
It's the reason why I've been the way that I've been. I've been trying to get this here for a decade, and I just thank God. I don't point no fingers no more. We done lost who we lost. People done did what they did. People done made their money and spent it. I enriched themselves, but we can't do nothing about nobody that's gone. But we can do something about the future. So that's why I'm concerned. I'm more concerned, like you said, the craziest thing I ever heard me. He said, I'm gonna be out here to 2020. And I said, that man's crazy. I might be out here in 2022, right? And now my focus is that it's to be out here to 2030 and really reassess this cure violence work, this community work, my life, so on and so forth. I really looking forward to 2030, and we can talk about what has happened over this decade and really what we need to do to make things better.
Well, so let me ask you this: when we look at this real quick, you talk about this program. I mean, when I just off the surface in looking at this, I see like Big Brother, Big Sisters on steroids, right? Yeah. Because they're actually going from not just being mentors, but being mentors yet being visible in the community,
right?
Walking the streets and trying to be more visible. Would that be kind of a correct assessment? And if so, then
I'm listening. Now, what we're saying is the way I like to describe it is we're going to treat violence in our community like a contagious disease.
No, I heard you.
All the precautions that came along with the pandemic, our community need to make the same precautions when it comes to the violence. I knew more people that got murdered during the pandemic that actually died from COVID-19.
Yeah, it's the number one for ADS males 18 to 40. It's the number one cause of death is homicide.
18 to 35. 35 is when we age out of it. Other things start killing us. But 35 and under, the
homicide.
That number one cause is homicide. And here's another thing. Our elders were afraid of the Klan. The Klan killed less than 2,000 people. We killed over 2,000 people each year. So if our elders was afraid of the Klan, just think about how afraid we are of each other in the 21st century.
Man, hey, Richard, boy, I tell you, boy, you dropping some serious information here that is very powerful. And you know what? Listen up, man. We're going to have to create this Cure Violence Louisville, and I'm going to get behind it, bro. I'm going to get behind it. How do we need to make contact? How do we create that Cure Violence Louisville here? Talk to me.
Right now, it's coming here, and when we tell you what I would say, let's just stay in touch and keep this thing and our people in this community in your prayers. But we definitely gonna stay in touch, and I'll keep y'all updated and enlightened about what's going on. But what I'm saying is, you already part of the coalition. I put you on the contact list last week, man.
Well, you're gonna be invited here. Listen up. I'm saying you got a place here every time, okay? To come keep us updated. No, I'm serious, fellas. You got a place here to come and speak.
So let's make
every time.
Absolutely. Let's make sure we share this this show today. Richard, share it on your page as well, because more people need to hear more about this. If y'all want to go to YouTube, look up History Untold 400 Truth Be Told, then you'll see this link there as well. But we need to make sure that this gets perpetual play throughout the week, especially until next week's show, because this is stuff that this is the important work here.
Hey, Joe, and I want to I'm going to extend. I want to get Joe, I want to ask you to have him to be on y'all show. Tipping Point.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, we got to get Tip.
We'll definitely talk more about it, and get it out there. But most definitely. So, again, man, another great show. The solutions.
you know, another program coming to the city. And that's kind of where I was getting at when I talked about the Big Brother Big Sisters on steroids, because, you know, again, we're talking about another program, and Ray Ali, you know, said something earlier about how Trump's administration cut about $1.6 billion out of the after school programs. That was like, you know, a bunch of money, $9 billion that was cut out of some other things, education and everything else, and 1.6 billion of that was after school programs. And so that is a thought, that is a concern, that is a question.
No, we just heard that the spending has gone up and the problems are getting worse. So
exactly,
why would you pour bad money on top of bad money?
Well, and that's my thought when you talk about that 1.6 billion, is the idea that, okay, stuff ain't working, so
that's what I was going to say.
We need to reroute this money
right
elsewhere. Problems are getting worse, and we're still spending this money on this stuff, and it's not working. So really,
measurable results.
The question, exactly. So the question becomes: are we targeting the right things in order to fix the problem?
There you go.
Absolutely. And that's why I looked at the music, the correlation with the music and everything, because to me, this is all mindset, and you got to pour more into the problem that is actually fixing the problem than the problem itself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You it's like with anything. It's a military. If you're going to attack the enemy, okay, you don't start with only going after what causing the enemy to attack you. You got to attack the enemy from what's getting his resources. Okay, where it's getting his resources. That's where the military don't go straight to attack the enemy. They attack its resources. What's giving it? What's getting them to maintain themselves? We always want to put money into the problem. No, let's go attack where the problem getting its resources from. What the problem is, okay? And even though I understand why $1.6 billion was taken away, but you got to ask yourself, was it resolving anything, okay? And it goes back. Stop throwing money into crap that's not working, okay? Sometimes you got to pull crap out and reevaluate it. And I think, you know, we are there. Hey, listen up. I didn't know where we're going. I'm actually got more out of this than I was initially thinking that this is going to turn into. This is a great show today, fellas. Okay, I'm proud to say that we were part of this. Peter, Joe, all of us, he was right. I actually agree with something he said there. We could have prevented. We could have prevented the Breonna Taylor, but we didn't know. We didn't understand. We didn't understand what was going on.
People didn't do is a lot of it, because like my man said, you know, he's been speaking and spitting this stuff for some years, and not just him, but others as well. But for some reason, the powers that be were busy putting money elsewhere,
putting money in their own pockets.
Well, it's more, if it was that simple, it'd be great. They are actually causing the problem. When you attack masculinity and you destroy the family, you know all this craziness is going to happen. So it's not like they're just ignorant. Well, we didn't know. Yes, this was pre-planned. You can't attack masculinity and fatherhood and destroy families and think you're not going to have anything but chaos.
Exactly. And like Ray Ali said, the only real solution to violence in the Black community is family. And that is the absolute truth. It's the one thing. It's the one thing that you see when you look across the railroad tracks, when you look across the aisle, when you look across the way, and you see success, and you see prominence, and you see abundance, and you see a sense of family. However it is, you see a sense of family, meaning people together, nourishing each other,
Fathers and
mentally,
mothers.
spiritually, you know, and ultimately financially, you know, because even when you go back and you look, you know, in the 30s and the 40s and 50s, you know, when a woman stayed home, and nobody's saying we got to go back to this, but when a woman stayed home, that was $100 and something thousand a year job that she was doing at home as a mother, nourishing the kids,
providing for the household,
providing for the household, creating a space of
nurturing
peace for that man that is out there
being a
carrying
provider.
that weight on his shoulders, working hard. He comes home to that space of peace, and he's able to recharge and get up and get back out there and do it the next day. And
guess what also, and I don't know if you guys heard of you guys know who Andrew Tate is?
No.
He is the most Googled man in the world right now. And he just got kicked off TikTok, but he was the #1. But he's pretty radical, but he talks about these issues, masculine, you know, the attack on masculinity. And he's pretty an interesting fellow. But one thing he brought up on a video I watched, he said, when you bringing women into the workforce like they've done, it was on purpose, because you know, in a traditional, where the father is the breadwinner, the leader of the home, the wife gets educated by the man, right? Basic leadership, and then that woman, the wife, the mother, translate those values to the children. If you take the woman out in the workplace, the kids have to be educated by the schools and daycare.
That's exactly.
And you can brainwash them, and that's what's been happening now. So now the schools are teaching against what most parents want to teach their kids. Parents don't want their boys to become girls and girls to be boys. They don't want all this nonsense. So that was on purpose. So you take the women into the workplace, and so that the kids are not being raised by their mothers, they're being raised by the government, the schools. And, you know, it sounded, you know, wild, but when you think about it, oh my good, oh snap.
Until you just said it, Peter, I would have never put it that way and that simple, but now when you once hearing it, it does sounds like it was an intentional core thing to change the structure of the family, to contaminate the natural development of the family. I can see that now. I mean, I wouldn't have, until you just said it the way you just said it. It's kind of like the same way that I realized the color construct came from Jamestown in Virginia. Had I not learned that, I would not be so adamant about it. Until you just said the way you just said that, it was an intentional thing to put the woman in the workplace. It was to destroy the family. So the destruction of the family has been going on for a very long time. Hey, Joe, but who do they need to destroy the most? See, anything that happened to us culturally, we catch it the worst. I think somebody say American can catch a flu, but we how is it? American catch a cold, but we catch the flu. Okay. Did y'all hear that before? Have you heard that before? Okay.
Yeah.
What the attack was on America, it devastated us. Okay. Do you hear what I'm saying? You know, taking a woman out of the household, okay, but taking a woman out of our household just devastated us into the condition that we currently in today. You feel where I'm going? You see where I'm going with this?
And feminizing men so they don't see the sense of responsibility, leadership.
The sense of responsibility.
They don't have to protect their women and children. The government's going to do it.
It's no longer caring about that perimeter. We don't have no perimeter anymore. We just allow anybody to come in our perimeter and do anything they want and everything, because we have no sense of protecting what's ours, because we're fussing and fighting with our women. Okay. One of the biggest problems that's going on in our community is that our women don't want to give back the reins to men, because they've been holding the reins for so long and everything that they like, oh, hell no. Well, we ain't trying to give that. But, and I'm going to go with John Yard, if he's still listening to John Yard said something, and he said that let's not blame the woman. Let's blame the men for not taking responsibility. The women are in the condition they are in because of some no good man, okay, that didn't handle his responsibility. So I never forgotten what John Ross said. That I said, as much as I'm very hard in trying to hold women accountable, but I realize that they are in the condition that they're in because of some no good father, some no good man didn't take the responsibility to raise that daughter and give her the proper guidance and the things that she needed. You follow where I'm going with that, Joe?
Absolutely. And, as we exit our way on out the show, I love that Peter brought up Andrew Tate. We did post a link there, Andrew Tate Uncensored interview with Patrick Bet David. It's a great almost 5 hour. I'm going to play just the intro to this video as we get ready to exit our way out. But just the intro to this video, I think you guys would love as we share this.
And as an introduction, he was
you have the youth, the masculine youth of the world, thinking for themselves. That's pretty scary to a Corey.
One of the biggest fatal mistakes any man or human being can make.
To chop my head off and try and delete me is asinine in and of itself. Another thing, I'll give the game away. Here's your piece of paper. Do you get canceled again, Logan?
You're saying a call like that was made?
100%. The dude's a bitch.
Lady of yours that you introduced to us yesterday said, this is my wife. I don't even know if I'm convinced you want to have 5 wives.
And that's a very astute observation. You are correct. But I won't believe it. I don't want to believe in things that make me weak.
Suddenly the most famous man on the internet, and then all of a sudden gone from the internet.
Wow.
He said, I don't even want to believe in things that make me weak.
Yeah.
Right. That's strong.
So, it's been a great show. Fantastic show, folks. Again, it's, just amazing, how these conversations blossom. Glad to shout out to Richard Whitlock. Having him on the show was fantastic. Thanks. Better Days with Peter Hayes and Uncle Meshorn. You're always on point, spot on, and valuable in these conversations. So I'm hoping things change in Louisville, Kentucky. As we see, even in looking at some of those numbers, it's very similar to numbers of many melanated communities, disparaged melanated communities around the U.S. So it's obvious at this point that there are things being done purposefully to disrupt the Black family, break us apart, and put us back out there all chaotic and wired up. So, we've got to focus on family. That has to be the case. Even as we, hashtag hetero pride, family matters, y'all gonna see more of that type of stuff coming out from the God's Lives Matter apparel lineup, as well as we celebrate heterosexuality, as we celebrate family just the same. And I'm not saying that you can't have two men together in a relationship raising a child, or you can't have two women together in a relationship raising a child. I'm just saying that they might come out effed up. So that's all I'm saying. But with that being said, folks, it's another show. We're done. We're out. Peace.
Hey, good show, fellas. See y'all next week, man.
Next week, same place, same time. Peace out.
All right, cue the music.
Cue music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Meshorn.